So if you'd like, we can start with the Grape update really briefly.
Very briefly, I finished the board layout yesterday, giving it the once over before I send it out for prototype. Also sent an email off to the raspberrypi.org in England for the Raspberry Pis, and they are more than interested in working with us, especially since it's related to the NSF grant. So we won't have any problems getting Raspberry Pis. I asked them for 50 as of June 1st and 50 as September 1st. They said no problem.
That's fantastic.
They want to actually showcase our project on their website. So I'm working with Nathaniel on that. They thought it's pretty cool. So
Wonderful.
I get the bottleneck in our Pi 4s is done with and over now.
well, I don't have them in hand yet, but hopefully, yeah.
I have seen them on sale recently again.
Yeah, Micro Centers had them in onesie twosies, but never at the volume that we wanted. So I was originally going to go with the Pi 4B 8 gig, but those are $80 a piece. In the 4 gig or 4B 4 gig are 39. So it doesn't look like memory is a limitation for us. So I suspect I want to verify it with my two busy bees that I don't think we're having any trouble going with the 4 gig. I don't think memory is the issue. It's processor speed and number of cores. And that's my update. Back to you, Rachel.
Okay, any questions for John? Okay. Let's talk briefly about the Hamvention poster though. Gary?
Okay, let me share my screen. Here we go. So just a reminder, the plan is to have a couple of posters in the Hamvention booth that we can use to explain our projects a little bit as people come up to the table. So we can be a little consistent from person to person. So this one on the Grape 1, install a receiver to QTH, monitor the ionosphere by the time frequency stations. So now I thought, well, you know, people are going to say, well, what can I do with it? Now, well, obviously we can make plots of the Doppler shift, which is typically, if I'm correct, less than 1 hertz, from what I remember. And signal strength appears in those plots. And then once they get their node number, they can be uploading data as well. So that's what they can do with their receiver. 1.12 is a build it yourself option, pretty inexpensive. Of course, the system requires the Pi and the Bodnar, and I think we're around $200 for all the ancillary stuff, cables and power supplies and Pis and all that sort of stuff. Does that sound about right to you, Jeff?
Well, the Bodnar is now $159 plus shipping. The Raspberry Pi is going to cost you probably $40 or $50. And the little USB sound card is like $7. And then you're going to need some kind of a power supply to run it, 12-volt supply. And
quick question. Is the 1.12, is that compatible with Pico?
no, you need an operating system to run. Pico does not have an OS. It has to be probably a 3B or a 4B.
Gary, you got a letter missing in the word disciplined behind GPS.
Yep. There's an I. Yep.
Thank you.
There you go.
And while you're on that, I'm not sure how many people just looking at will know what OSX means.
Yeah, I debated that. I mean,
I'll be OSC.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be clearer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or could you spell out oscillator and then put the total price as another bullet next to the QR code?
You might want to put Raspberry Pi 4B. That's really what it wants. And if they ask about the 3B, then you can say, yeah, that'll work. That looks good. Yeah.
Yeah, I grabbed a picture off the league's video, and I got, obviously the dimensions are pretty easy, and as people are talking, we can explain about the Doppler shift and how the layers move day to night. So I figured this was hopefully good enough for graphics.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Perfect.
so on
that-
mine, the GPS has now disappeared off of the poster.
Yep, I see that.
Do you mention the eclipse activity? Because I think that might be an attractor.
I would recommend that be a poster unto itself. Because there's multiple things about the eclipse.
Yeah,
Right, right.
So there is a separate poster on the eclipses, for sure. That's, I agree. Operate during the eclipse, gain a better understanding with the image of the day, night, and layers and that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's definitely part of the deal.
And on that eclipse poster, you mentioned also the grape, right?
I didn't go back and forth between the two. These are all kind of standalone, but
Well, that's the purpose of the Raspberry Pi. Or I'm sorry, the grapes is for the eclipses. I mean, that's our target.
okay.
So it might be prudent to,
Well, it is a primary target, but it's not the only target. So
right.
using it from a day-to-day basis is appropriate as well.
Okay. I'll give that a little thought of how I can tie those two together.
Big arrows.
All right. That's good for now. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
Yeah,
work.
that looks really good. Thank you.
And I like the QR code.
Yeah, this is absolutely fantastic, Gary, because like we absolutely need this, and I just do not have time to do it. This is perfect.
Okay. Daniel, now might be an okay moment to ask if you have anything to add to the agenda, because otherwise we're going to move on to a bit of a website update.
I think I didn't get a chance to see what the agenda is, but I'm happy to talk with John a little bit about budgets and his Raspberry Pi issues and progress of getting out the Grape 1s and see where the Grape 2s are.
Let's see, we did just do Grape
Because
update, but if you'd like, we can do that for a few minutes.
that'd be really great. So John, I'm sorry, would you mind recapping where things are?
In terms of where the grape is or where the purchases for the Raspberry Pi 4s?
Let's start with where the Grape 2 is.
Grape 2 finished the board layout yesterday, so I'm doing the final run through. I got to get a hold of the manufacturing place to figure out what size, shape, and where they want fiducials for placement.
Okay.
But I'm going to do a run of 5 initially, since this is the first turn of everything getting turned topsy-turvy. So those will be on order hopefully today.
Okay. When you say you have a board layout done, does that mean you think you figured out the timing issues and the bandwidth issues, or does that mean
that's hardware? The timing is taken care of. Bandwidth of the ports looks like we've got it working, but we're still in the development phase on that, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. It looks promising.
that's really good news?
Done it yet. I mean, I did mine with just the file rights to the Raspberry Pi. It had no problem. So the bottleneck is the data path, and Bob has demonstrated that it looks like it works if you set it up for block mode at the full baud rate. You have a little bit of overhead left and it works. So
Yeah.
I want to do that with the real file format being paced by the data engine. And when we can do that for a day and store data, and then with my predetermined data set, go through and filter through it and make sure that we've got solid data, then I'm going to give the thumbs up. We've got it solved. We're good to go.
Okay.
But I'm
So it
about
sounds like
95% sure that we're there. So
that sounds that sounds like really, that sounds
Yeah.
a really good spot to be in. And it sounds like that's, you know, moving along in a nice direction. How about, do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. How about so regarding a deployment of Grape ones as a pilot network, have you thought about that? Or is there someone else? I think maybe someone else was thinking about working on that network.
yeah, that was not on my plate.
Right. So what you did was you gave me the estimate for how much you think it would cost to, how much extra. I am committing to making sure that happens. So if we want to start, so we should start doing that. So who is the person that was working on figuring out where these Grape sites are going to go to?
That would be
Derek.
Gary.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's for me for right now. One of the next things I wanted to do on the ham site was create a page for the Grape participants, I guess you'd say, in a registration form and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Probably start with the existing deployment and fill that out is sort of tack I would take.
I agree. One thing, yes, I agree. One thing I've talked to Christina about, she is trying to do a longer term study of these solar flares with the Grape 1 data. So I've basically promised her that I would not replace the Grape version 1s with Grape version 2s. I would not transition them over. So I think people who are currently running Grape version 1s, I think we might see if they'd be willing to put up a second antenna and run a second Grape version 2 until we're certain that we're able to provide Christina with equivalent data that she needs.
Now, my plan is to attack David Kasdan. By the way, happy birthday, David.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Should we all sing on Zoom?
I think we should.
All right. Happy
birthday
birthday to
to
you. Happy
Happy
birthday to you.
Happy
Birthday,
birthday, dear
David.
Happy
birthday to you.
1 year for
Yay.
Medicare, maximally composited 2 to the 6th. Yeah, it's all good. Thank you.
You're
Thanks.
welcome.
And today's date is 2 squared, 3 cubed.
Oh,
Do you
wow.
feel like you live in a zoo yet?
That was last year. I've escaped. Thank you. But thanks everyone.
And I'll sing you my birthday dirge later in person.
Yeah, that's next year. Thank you. Yes.
David,
It was already. Yeah.
David, I want you to take a recording of this Zoom over next time you go to the Cleveland Symphony concert and see if they'd be willing to have us as like a choral, you know.
Oh,
I'll do that.
Yeah, sure you will.
Remember next year it's the Hamsai Octet.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was going to have David look into implementing the algorithm that FLDigi uses for the analysis mode to grab the frequency. And since we have on each pi the complete 8 kilohertz bandwidth for each second, we can calculate the center frequency of the 3 received signals. And actually the Grape 2s can be doing the uploads that the Grape 1s do. It wouldn't be that big of a stretch.
That sounds great.
So we'd be getting both. Because right now we're not planning on sending the data set unless we do some massaging to it. But This would be another task for a core that would be running in the background that once a second just pops a number out into the file, and we wouldn't have to miss any of the 86,400 seconds like FLDigi does. So I think we've missed an average of 2,000 a day.
Yeah, every second is important. You have no second left behind.
That's right. Can't have that.
No. So yeah.
So
Does
that's
that
my
sound like
long-term
something-
plan of getting stuff to support Christina as well as the top or the splitting stuff and all the spectrum stuff, but we'll have to work on that part later. But one step at a time, I got to make sure that we're saving data first.
Yeah. So I guess, Gary, what you can do is you can start by making sure you know which stations we already have deployed. And we would not have to redeploy a Grape 1 over to them. And then it's working on finding the other locations that, you know, need to be deployed. You can certainly contact the people who are already have Grape 1s running and just, you know, let them know that we're working on this project and make sure that they are still committed to running their station. And we're going to be looking at sending them a Grape 2 once we, you know, do have this thing that John talked about worked out.
And the way it's looking now, I'm hoping to get the boards into build end of May, early June, although the last week and a half of May, I'm going to be on vacation. So that's going to put a little bit of time hold on that. But I want to start building boards testing. Now, the way I've designed the Grape, it will be self-testing. I'm using the 4th PLL as an injection node for the front end so we can generate any signal we want. So I can actually test the entire analog section with itself with a single cable. And I've got the command set up and we're all moving towards that. So
it sounds like I don't necessarily need to spend any money for the Grape 1 deployment just yet, because it sounds like we're still working on contacting people and stuff like that.
right. The other thing is, do we want to give consideration for the path being covered for this October as well, instead of just the April one?
Well, we already have.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've already given that consideration, and in the grant proposal, there is a map that shows the paths of both eclipses, and it shows the locations of currently deployed stations, and it shows locations of where we propose to put new stations. And I chose those locations to try to maximize the coverage of the midpoints for both eclipses.
Yeah, I kind of missed that. This is the first time I've popped up for air, so.
Yeah, so we actually do have a map that includes currently deployed, you know, future sites that we want to have, and it accounts for both eclipses.
Perfect.
Okay, I missed it. That map's available where? Is that on the Hamside site now or?
Let's see, it may or may not be on the Hamside site. Oh, Rachel just posted.
Yeah. Well, this is the link for the website update, so we're going to talk about anyway. I grabbed an old version of the map. I'm not sure if it has been updated since then, but
the main guiding document is still you have the grant proposal.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the grant proposal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because those are the two things I need is the proposed map and then the current node list, so I can start rationalizing all that stuff.
Yeah. So I think I already sent you this. Oh, I can see if I'll bring it up again. Some items. Here let me do this first. Okay. Here, and then here, project description. Right, so this is a grant proposal. If you look under, should be figure 1, I think. No, figure 2. So this is the map in the grant proposal. So anything that's a little triangle is anything that's a star is an existing ham size site. Anything that's a triangle is an additional proposed ham size site. And then the red dots are the midpoints between those sites and WWV, and the yellow dots are the midpoints between those sites and CHU.
Yeah, this looks familiar.
Okay. So it's actually kind of hard to get. You know, you can sample the middle of the US pretty well with the midpoints, but as you get to the edges, it's hard to sample it because you go off into the oceans.
Ooh, sounds like an opportunity.
Yeah. It's
For the
also
ham site
interesting,
fleet.
look, you know, yeah, also is interesting here because for the April eclipse, the CHU measurements are actually more important. Because all the midpoints here, they're all CHU. All the WWV midpoints are like over here.
I'll put in a word again that the Florida coast is our only landmass where we're halfway, the eclipse is halfway from WWV to a receiver.
That must be like here and
Correct.
here.
It really would be a help if we had a bunch of receivers there.
I can put one in Jacksonville, Florida. My brother lives there.
Then do. And
I've got southern Florida covered. I'm in Vero Beach.
yeah, okay, get it working. And if you have hams in Austin area, please get them in touch, because we noticed 2 weeks ago the Great Circle path from Austin to Cleveland is just about the same as the eclipse path. So we have rather a different experiment to do, beaconing back and forth between two amateur stations there.
Okay, for next week's call, I'll try to get all this information together and write up a message to go out to these stations, whether they're current or new, and then we can take a look at that before I send it out.
Okay.
So that sounds good. So, and then John, on the Raspberry Pis. So how exactly does this work? So I guess the first question, that you think the 4 GB is enough capacity, enough
Yeah.
RAM?
The RAM is being used as a buffer for incoming data, and the way I believe Bob has written it, we've been working with a 4 gig, and we've been having it work with the 4 gig because the processor speed and the number of cores are the same. And
Is the ones that you sent out for the first round, like the one that's sitting in my house right now, is that a 4 gig or an 8 gig?
that's a 4.
It's a 4. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never used any of the 8 gigs yet. I thought it would be helpful, but turns out if you store a full buffer's worth of 30 seconds of data, you get up to about 2.6 gig of memory if you have that big of a buffer.
Okay.
But I think we're planning on doing a circular buffer that might be 2 seconds or 4 seconds. So that doesn't even push close to a gig. It's about
Okay.
50 kbytes a second. So like I said, I don't think memory is going to be the issue. I think it's going to be processor speed and cores. The other big breakthrough that I figured out earlier this week is that there are more than one UART available on the Pi 4. You just have to turn it on in the boot code.
Okay.
I got on the second UART working this week, and we're going to turn that into our permanent diagnostic channel, and I'm going to discuss it with Bob and Bill. It may make sense to make that our primary control channel and not clog up the back path on the data channel. So it would also give us better diagnostic capabilities, because then you could go in with a terminal window to the Pico and tickle things that way instead of having the program. So it opens up a lot of opportunities, but I think we're early enough on that it's not going to derail anything Bill's done, but I need to talk to him about that. So
Okay.
Got something to say, Bill?
Yeah, I have a preliminary update from some measurements I did last night with
Oh.
better timers on the transfer rate from the pico to the pi. And it turns out I'm getting the whole 8K block in about 164 milliseconds. So that translates to a transfer rate of over 700 kilobytes per second. So we're 2/3 of the maximum USB 1.1 speed. So we're well over what we need.
Okay. That's it, Nathaniel. Thumbs up.
We're good. I can
just
sleep well.
Don't take it to the bank because this is
Yeah.
preliminary. So
Yeah, we haven't
Okay.
written the file yet either.
don't base any plans on it yet, but I just freed up some time off another project. So I was able to do that last night and it's very, very looking good. So,
Well, the very final step is that we take the data and pace it with the 8 kilohertz sample rate. So instead of sending samples, we'll be sending my test data stream
yeah,
and then actually saving it to a file. And
Right.
once we've done that for a day, we've confirmed it. But the bottleneck was the issue because I've confirmed that it can do the writes from the OS in 65 milliseconds for the full 1 second's data.
Yeah.
yeah, this is also doing the write to the file system on the Pi.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably all buffered, but I don't.
Well, for that, we're taking advantage of the OS in that case. If it's doing the buffering, we want it to do
Right.
that.
We've got 4 cores running.
Yes. Oh, that's
It sounds like with the progress, I don't want to commit to this yet, but it sounds like with the progress we're making, there's some possibility that by the time Gary figures out where all the sites are, we may actually be pretty close to just deploying Grape 2s and not have to do the Grape 1 thing.
Yep.
There's still a lot to do, but
There's still a lot to do, but that was the
But
hurdle that we had to jump.
Yeah.
And
But
it sounds like we
basically,
jumped it.
we still have the contingency plan available of deploying the Grape 1s, but if serendipitously things work out that we don't need to do that, we won't.
right.
Yeah. That's good. That's great.
Yeah, realistically, if I get a board build going by the end of June, testing, we could be shipping product probably by end of July, early August.
Okay.
Because I have to test all these things.
Right.
Minor details.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, we still have, we can't ship anything until Gary gets a list of,
Take your time, Gary. Take your time.
we do want to balance it. We absolutely want to have a network deployed before October and collecting data. So, but I think we have a little bit more time, to decide exactly. Gary can either agree or disagree with this. I think we have a little bit more time before we actually commit to one way or the other.
Yeah, sometimes shipping in August would probably be about what I'm thinking if I can get the testing done.
Yeah.
Being that I've built in the testing source into the Grape, that's going to be huge because you don't have to have any special equipment to test it. It's just going to take a terminal and some Python code to exercise all 3 channels, and then you'll be changing the gains and stuff like that. And I'm actually going to document what each one does, so I have the fingerprint of every Grape we sent out.
Yeah.
So not hard to do.
Okay, with the Raspberry Pis, and you want to buy 100 of them.
That's the minimum I have to buy. That's the order.
Right. So how would that come out of the budget you have for the Grape 2s? Would that come out of what budget would that come out of? Okay. And so
if you want to take it out of the Grape 1 budget, that'd be fine.
No, I'd prefer not to.
Okay.
I think because really the Grape, so you should know a couple of things. The Grape 1 budget, the Grape 1 budget from the Case Western side, that's all closed, like from the first project, right? So anything that I would use for the Grape 1 that I have money for would be coming out of the General Daisy grant that I have at Scranton. And that money is really Scranton's main objective right now is we need to get the tangerine going. And we've had some setbacks on the tangerine, especially in terms of, unfortunately, Tom McDermott is having some health issues. And so he's not going to be able to continue in the same capacity he has been. And so, which is really unfortunate because Scotty is also, he has things going on too. So some of our main engineers are not able to be fully committed. And we really need to get the tangerine done by, we need to get something out of it by December. So I'm trying to manage, I have some paths forward on that, but I'm trying to manage that and manage the resources there. So my preferred option is keeping those resources available for the tangerine and not putting them onto the grape if we don't have to. So the other thing is, so that's the main thing. And so basically that budget I gave you for the budget that I gave you for doing the grape 2s is like, I kind of have that chunked out already. I'm like, I know this is John's budget, so you're managing that for the grape 2s, so I don't have to kind of worry about taking that from anything else. So if you're comfortable, if you know that, oh yeah, I can buy 100 of these things with that money and be good for the grape 2s, then I don't have to worry about taking it out from something else. But if you said, okay, look, no, we need these raspberry pies. I really need extra money for it. Then I could go look and see, okay, where else can I take it from? So,
Okay.
So that's, yeah.
Yep, being the price for the 4 gig is half the price of the 8 gig.
Yeah.
And we're not really memory constrained, and I think Bill would probably be able to talk to that. I don't think that's the bottleneck. I think it's the speed and the number of cores. So going with a 4 gig, I don't want to go with the 2 gig, but the 4 gig, I think is what we need.
The 4 gig is adequate.
So in that case, it's time to get them into our hot little hands, because I've got all the other special pieces parts.
I absolutely agree with that. So
I will work with Melissa and Raspberry Pi organization and get those ordered.
Okay.
Now they said they can do it through an approved vendor, so I suspect we're going to do it through Mauser. So what I may have Melissa do is cancel the 8 gig Pi order she has locked in that we put in January. Cancel that and then put in an order for 100, and then tell raspberrypi.org who we are coming through Mauser, and then Mauser will ship them to me.
That sounds great.
So that's the plan at this point. But
yeah, I think that's a really solid plan, because we don't want this project to fall down just because we can't get Raspberry Pis.
Exactly, and that's the last major piece that I'm after.
Yeah.
The thing is with raspberrypi.org, and I kind of knew this would happen. I mentioned very specifically that we are working with an NSF grant for research on this, and that popped us to the front of the line. It's like, when do you want them? Because they want to showcase this for their organization. So that's why I'm asking, what can I didn't send them anything because I probably mess it up. So that's why I was asking.
Well, if you want, why don't you work with Gary? Gary's doing a really good job kind of with the branding and the communications.
Okay.
So work with Gary, and Gary can work up something with you. Gary is, really thinking about how things look on the website. He's kind of thinking that's top level stuff. One thing you can send them right away is like, I really like the video the ARRL did with you at the Hamsci workshop.
Oh, okay, I can do that.
That's a really nice. Yeah, so that's already high production quality. I know Gary's trying to get the little version number changed on it, on that video.
Yeah, that's been fixed. That's good.
So right away you have something that's high production quality that I think is really nice. That would be a good thing you could send over to Raspberry Pi.
And I suspect that the graphic that Gary just showed us, if we sort of distill some of that as just a blurb that they can pop in on a web page someplace, we've got the work done. So it's just a matter of grabbing the right stuff and sending it to them. But they're really excited about this. I can't emphasize enough it's like their eyes are popping out of their head.
So I would have you focus on the engineering and then pass that like branding sort of communication stuff off to Gary.
I'll work with Gary on that now. Now that I
Yeah.
got the board layout done, I actually can breathe again for a while. So
Yeah, good.
yeah, I've been pushing hard on this for the last 8 weeks. Then no, I actually started this beginning of March. So
Mm,
yeah, it took that long to. Anyway,
yeah,
we're getting there.
yeah, that's great. That's really good. So yeah, so definitely go ahead and get those Raspberry Pis. And if I need a couple, like maybe up to 10 to 15 of them for the Tangerine project, would you be able to, could I have some of those?
I'll think about it. Yeah, of course.
Okay. Because it's
For a
probably gonna be
fee.
easier for a fee.
Oh, wait a minute, you paid for it. Oops.
I'm paying for them anyway. Yeah. So because we might need them for, I think we might need a few for that project, definitely not 100 of them, but I think we may need a few, and I know they're hard to come by, so.
Well, I can kick the order up and pace out another 50. That's certainly doable.
Well, well, we have to be careful here too, because like, so, okay.
Because I'm
So
thinking
we
Grape
have,
is
we have to remember, so you have to remember that in the grant that you're buying these from, we budgeted for what, 35?
I thought it was 50, but that's okay.
No, if you
It
look.
was only
at our
35?
mandate,
Okay.
yeah, if you look at our mandate, back over, let's do my screen share again. So if you're ever uncertain on like what the guiding document of the minimum requirement is, go back to this grant proposal.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure. Look at the table of contents here. Network planning, section 3.1. Oh man, I know I
just saw 3 channels, Grape 2.
I might be in the budget justification.
Yeah, my plan right now is I'm going to be building 50 grapes. That's
Which
my.
I think is good. So yeah, actually let's talk about this I think that's really good.
The yield isn't going to be
Maybe.
100%, and I want to get everything out as fast as I can and then work on those other things in the background. So
I just want to
most people don't realize the amount of work behind the scenes to bring a board up, put it together as a system, and then ship them it's a full-time job for like 4 people.
I am learning this.
Yeah. Sadly, I've been through it so many times, I take it for granted, but
I'm definitely learning this. All right, so here's what we technically budgeted for. We budgeted for 30 of these things.
now, is that 30 hex or 30 decimal?
30 decimal. And for every single one of them, we budgeted a total of $841 per thing, which includes the receiver, which includes all the parts to build the radio and the supporting hardware, including the Raspberry Pi 4 computer, a 2 terabyte solid state drive, an antenna, and the connecting wires. So you have $841 times 30 that you have to, that's like the minimum. So if you can build 50 of them for the same budget, that's wonderful. But this is what we're obligated to do.
Yeah, the 25230 looks familiar.
Yeah. So I think so as long as yeah, if you can do 50 for that, that's great. But this is what we said we have to do.
Okay.
Then the other thing is, it'd be really good for us to have a plan that once we, like, let's say we are able to pay for 50 of these from the grant and we're able to just give 50 of these away. That's great. Can we have some sort of a plan where we can also make them available to additional people for cost?
Sure.
And so does that plan require us to buy additional Raspberry Pis and like,
Depends on what you want to include with the kit. Raspberry Pi and a Pico are an integral part of the radio.
Yeah.
So because I'm thinking two boards are going to have to be manufactured. There's no way you can solder those by hand because the IRF board has over 250 parts and the other main board has over 200 parts or 150 parts. So
Right.
not something you
How-
want to solder by hand.
No, so I guess one question is, how would you want, I know of like 3 possible ways. I know an infinite number of ways to possibly distribute these, but there are 3 ways that come to mind, maybe 4, but that are viable ways for us to go through making these available to the public at cost.
My
Okay.
original one was Tapper,
Yes, so that's the number 1.
but
You know,
Scotty's
number
no
one would
longer
be
in the
through
mix. So
Okay, but John, did you see that Zoom has this automatic like AI thing or something detection where I
cool.
put a thumb up here and it automatically digitally. So yeah,
yep. And I guess I don't have mine turned on.
you got if you raise your hand. I noticed this yesterday. Yeah, there's a little thing on the bottom. There, it automatically detected my hand raised, so that's kind of cool. Okay, so yeah, so Scotty is kind of out right now, and you know, but other people at Tapper are still doing well. So like John Ackerman is still very much, you know, involved and on top of things, and I think he's the one that's going to be running the store now. So
Okay.
you know, I do trust John Ackerman, and I think, you know, we could work out something with Tapper for them to do it. Another possibility is if we want, you know, if we want to go up to the next level, I'm not sure that we're ready for this. Tim Duffy has offered to have DX Engineering distribute our things, and he is very excited. I don't want to go to the DX Engineering level until I'm like really sure that, okay, this is really gonna be like, you know, we don't want anything going to DX Engineering that's going to be a flop or have problems.
Well, like I said, the first version of the Grape 2, the packaging is adequate, but it's not optimal.
Yeah.
So the problem I'm running into
seems-
is the Grape 4 has to be heat sinked and it likes to have a little fan on it. So right now I'm taking a 4-inch ribbon cable out of the case to the Raspberry Pi case with the fan in it.
Yeah. It seems to me the appropriate method might be starting with making them available through the Tapper store, getting all the bugs worked out, getting that kind of, and then when we're really happy with it, then we go to DX Engineering and be like, okay, you know, we have this, it's solid, let's kind of go to the more big time distribution.
Yeah.
Does that seem appropriate?
Finished product is what DX is looking for. They do not have
Right.
any idea about distribution chain, about manufacturing, about packaging. That all has to be done. I mean, test
and I
fixtures
think-
for the production line, all that kind of stuff that I'm going to be doing they
Right.
don't have anything to do with that. They want final
Right.
product.
Right. Well, I don't know that that's entirely true, because it sounds like DX Engineering does have manufacturing facilities.
Oh, I was not aware of that.
So I think it is potentially that they actually can help with that.
Okay.
So,
Sounds like we need to have a
but I
conversation.
still, right. So I think this is where, but it is definitely the next level up. And I think, you know, if we do this, if we go to DX Engineering, I think we really want to have something that's less on, that really is a solid design though. And that we really do we do have network set up where Bill Engelke is ready to collect our data and it goes smoothly, because I think we don't want to put anything up on DX Engineering that's going to have, you know, any sort of problems.
That's at least a year off.
Nathaniel,
Right, yeah.
I don't think DX Engineering's manufacturing extends past things like cutting lengths of cable and crimping connectors onto them.
I think
I'm
that's mechanical, yeah.
Yeah,
But
I'm
somebody's making
uncertain.
their receiver guards and preamplifiers and that kind of stuff, but that's way out in the future. I think you're right.
Yeah, so I think, and then I think the other option, you know, of course, is still Tapper, but the third option would be for like one of the universities, either Case or Scranton or someone, to kind of act as a storefront. But I don't think we really want to do that, because I think I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's another full-time job. And
Yeah,
support
so
for that is the hard part.
Right, so I think the tapper route makes the most sense then, would be to work with John Ackerman. They do have a store set up, they have a brand name, they have all that stuff. And then, you know, we would be providing them with a product. So I guess the question, you know, and they do have some funding as well in order to like get products up and running. So they might be able to front money to have a bunch of, you know, if it $3,900 to buy 100 Raspberry Pis, they may want to have that in stock in their store, and then they could redistribute them, you know, as part of it. So maybe I forget, John, are you going to be at Dayton or not?
I
You're
will
not,
not be,
right?
no,
You won't be, yeah.
I got a conflict.
David Kasdan, you'll be at Dayton?
Yes, I will. And we're going a day early to go to the 4 days in May QRP conference. We'll be
Oh, good.
meeting, I put a bit in the chat from Midnight Design Solutions. We're going to be meeting with them about coherent CW work they're doing. Do you want me to talk with them about how they do manufacturing and distribution? They've had a pretty good small product line.
Sounds like can't hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be worthwhile. I would be interested. You know, the other thing I do want to try to keep Tapper going, you know, help out with them where I can. So it's like, it would be, I mean, I guess I'd like you to talk to John Ackerman. I think will be at Dayton. So I was wondering if you talk to John Ackerman about planning for putting the grapes in the Tapper. And maybe also talk to him about putting, I don't know if you know, the coherent CW, if that would go into Tapper as well.
Good.
Or if you want to talk to both of them and see what makes more sense.
Do you have any idea how they handle their circuit board assembly? Because they started about 1980 with shipping actual products.
How Tapper does?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know exactly, and that's why I think it'd be good for you. You know, if you go talk to both of them, talk to Tapper, talk to Midnight Solutions, and I don't know, maybe you can report back and see what makes the most sense.
Good.
I would like to see Tapper, you know, succeed, because they are, you know, a nonprofit electrical engineering group. And I think there's, you know, I think from a citizen science standpoint or a citizen engineering standpoint, I really think that is a good model that I'd like to see exist. So, but you can, at Dayton, we're going to have the booth right next to Tapper, and I think John Ackerman will there, so there should be a good time for you. And you know, Rachel, you're going to be there too. Both of you can talk with John Ackerman and, you know, Midnight, and you know, kind of see what makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, we got our homework to do.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments on the grape situation?
I think we fermented it enough.
I only have like 8 minutes and then I have to run to class. So let's talk a little bit about the website.
Let's go talk about your office. You need more books on your shelves. I'll send some over.
Yoast, well, there's plenty over there, but don't. Yoast is being demolished. We have to move everything. Everything's getting put off.
Okay, I have started working on the new introduction to the Grape 1 page that I said last week I would do. It's turning out to be a little bit more more stuff than I expected it to be. Hope it doesn't turn into a paper, but it looks like it might. I'm a little bit behind where I wanted to be because this darned extra class that I'm teaching is my slides are not in as good a shape as I thought they were in, so I've had to put more time on that than I wanted to. But I am working on that. Who should I send that to when it's ready?
You said Grape
I think-
1. Did you mean Grape 2?
I have in my
No, he's redoing the Grape 1 page because that's to make Grape version 1.12.
Okay. Okay.
Who should I send that to? Nathaniel and Rachel, maybe?
I think, yeah, or I think Gary, is that something you should take? for now?
Yeah, probably, yeah, because eventually I'll be the one probably putting it up onto the page, so.
Okay,
If you need any technical help, Gary, don't feel limited to reach out to me. I can definitely give it a
Okay.
hairy eyeball.
Yeah, so Jim, to answer your question, it's probably me and Rachel. That's,
okay.
Speaking of, just before I go, so the link should still be in the chat for our website. So we currently have it in kind of a linear, unstructured kind of structure. This is what we kind of typed up last week for the Grape introduction stuff. Does anyone have any questions or concerns about this structure?
I'm reading it now.
And the link should also be in the chat, so everyone should have it access.
Building and operation. I think that's looking good. I think when you get to number 5, I think it should just be a link to another page, and that actual
exactly, yes.
information
Yeah.
should not actually be on this page.
Do we want to have a different page for all of the building stuff? Because there's a lot right now in the building stuff that's just like links to PDFs or links to other websites and things as well.
I think you can start with it just as a linear page and see how it comes out that way. As long as you're using the hierarchical like heading tags, that usually separates things out pretty nicely. And then we can take a look at it, and then if it makes sense, if we feel like we need additional pages, we can do that.
Okay. Yeah, so I put in basic fill paragraph for introduction things. This is the for the map that's currently on there for the currently active Grape station.
Now, is that map of stations, is that manually updated, or is, there's like no link to a list or anything like that, that they automatically show up on there?
It is manually updated.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine. I just wanted to
I
know.
sent the node list to Christina and she created it. So if you need the node list, the private
Yeah.
node list that has all the data, it has the latitude and longitude of all the stations.
Yeah, absolutely. I need that, John, because that way I can, because I got to reach out and contact all these people. So I got to put together a contact list, please.
It's got their phone number and address in it as well. So yeah, I'll send that to you.
Thank you.
And then we'll have, this is the map in case you needed this as a image. Which is why I like
a typo, the WWV frequencies. You have 1.5
yeah.
to 2.5.
Oh, they moved it.
Oh.
Cool.
yeah.
We better tell Matt Deutsch about this.
Yeah, and there's some stuff because a lot of the data for here was for Grape 1. I copied some of the material from like all of this stuff I basically took from the website, and I'm just going to edit the dickens out of it, but quite a bit of it's on Grape 1. So it's probably worth going through. So now it's in a little bit more structure. This is eventually going to be Grape 1 archival information, and a lot of that's probably going to move down. But I don't know if we have, in the interest of stopping at a reasonable time, we don't really have a lot of time for edits, but everyone should have editing access to the document. So if you want to read it and comment and edit, the dickens out of it.
That's a great start. Thanks. That'll help.
Okay.
Yeah,
That looks
combined with what
really
Jim
good,
said,
Rachel.
yeah, that'll get us moving forward.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Because I know there were a few questions on the magnetometers. They're a little off topic, but okay, and then I'll probably head out.
Yeah, the Grape 2 will run the magnetometer board as well, so.
No, someone had a question on magnetometer.
Yeah, I had a question on the construction. I've got mine and I'm planning a trip to Home Depot today to get materials. But I was looking at it and looking at the assembly instructions, what came with it, and what else I could find. How is it anticipated to tie the remote board? How is it anticipated to hook that to the PVC pipe that it's in? There was something about somebody's railing that I looked at, I found online, and it doesn't look like it would fit.
I think it goes into 1.5 inch PVC, or is it
1.5 inches, what I was anticipating. Although some of the early stuff says 1.25, that's obviously not going to work.
Yeah,
But at 1.5 inches, that main remote board with the magnetometer attached to it barely fits in the middle of a 1.5 inch PVC.
Right.
That probably was intentional.
Yep.
But how do I hold it in place? I was wondering about a spot of hot melt glue.
that'll work. You do. Yeah, it's pretty tight in the bore of that anyway. So you really, I mean, you could even take some of that close cell foam and just sort of squish it in place and have it held in place at the bottom of the tube that way. The hardest part of that whole thing is getting the waterproof RJ45 jack on top to tie into it. So I'm going to be installing mine and one at David's house this summer. Yeah, there were some printed rails there too that somebody had come up with.
Has these things been in use long enough that we have a history about water protection and water collection? Because, you know, it's to me, it's the old problem of you build the box and then the last thing you do is drill a hole in the bottom to let the water out.
That is of concern. Yes, I've been concerned about that.
Cap on the bottom is a good water seal if you glue it correctly. And that's the only thing that's underground.
It's the atmospheric moisture creeping into the box and then collecting.
That will happen, yes.
I just wondered if anybody had a.
Well, the RJ45 connector is really where the moisture would come in. And that's supposed to be waterproof.
Yeah, does that mean it
Gotta
won't
be airtight to keep the water.
Hermetic sealing is hard to do.
Now, Bob's right. Through temperature changes and changes in humidity, moisture is going to collect inside. Any closed box typically has a vent hole somewhere that doesn't allow ingress of water, but allows the egress.
Or a dry air pump on it.
Or a desiccant pack in there too would be.
Well, that's a good start.
It's a good start, but it's a temporary solution.
Yep.
Now I think Bill Engelke's been running his. Bill?
You're talking about the Grape one?
I'm talking about the magnetometer.
Oh, the magnetometer. Oh, you're talking about out in the yard.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's been running for a couple of years. Now, there could be water in the bottom. I mean, I left about an 8-inch buffer zone at the bottom. So for all I know, it could be half full of water. I don't know. You know,
time for remote camera.
In the yard, you need quite a substantial desiccant pack. And then you have to go out and change it from time to time, or put it in the house and bake it and take it back out there if you really want to keep it dry. But I don't know if it seems like the electronics seems to be tolerating the water. Okay, I don't know whether there's water in it now, but I would think there probably is.
Yeah, that's still a TBD.
Okay, the other question I had real quick is what is the tolerance we are looking for on the angles, the true north and I assume that's magnetic north, not polar north. And what are the tolerances on getting that angle right, and also the verticality of the tube? What are we looking for? Do we have any idea?
The one I saw had a little balance bubble on the top for level to make it vertical, but that's, you know, probably plus or minus a couple of degrees.
Yeah, that's not
And
going
then
to
you adjust the tube with the little software program to get it pointing magnetic north. I don't think we do magnetic declination on these. But that's a question for Nathaniel.
Hi, sorry about that. I had to.
Talk to Rachel.
Yeah, I had to talk to Rachel. Say hi, Rachel.
Hello, Rachel.
How's that one?
Good. You keeping Nathaniel in line, or is that a full-time job?
Trying to.
That sounds about right. Nathaniel, on the magnetometer, is it true north or do we do a magnetic declination?
You should set it to the magnetic north.
Okay, so we don't do any magnetic declination.
No.
Okay.
Here's something that, so yeah, try to just set it to the magnetic north. So what's
best I can.
Set it to compass north.
Right.
Okay. So set it to compass north.
Yeah.
So
That's what the instructions do say.
Yeah. And one thing that's also nice is that in the post processing, you know, there are actually algorithms that can say, it'll look at your magnetometer data over a long period of time, say like a week, a year, something like that. So the idea is that you put the magnetometer in the ground, it stays there for a long period of time. On average, we should be able to figure out from looking at the data over a long period of time, which way you have it pointed. Is it, you know, magnetic north? Is it off a little bit? And we should be able to apply a rotation matrix to it to do some corrections afterward, because yeah.
Okay, and the way it looks like it's fixed, we want the magnetic north to be in line with the board. I say the plane of the board, but the plane is defined as right angles to the board. In line with the plane of the board.
Well, the final adjustment, you actually read the magnetometer and twist it until you get a 0.
Yeah.
If you look at it right here, here's this picture right here. You see, here's the board. North is supposed to be this way.
Okay, got it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You have this link.
I don't think I do. In fact, the one that is in this paper is broken.
Can you post the link?
What paper are you looking at? Yes.
The instructions that came with the quick start guide that came with the magnetometer.
Okay. So if you go to hamsci.org right now, if you go to personal space weather station, and then you go down to ground magnetometer module, it brings you to this page, and there is a ground magnetometer installation and operation manual. And it has all of these pictures.
Okay, good. And that's more than what I had by far. The reference in this quick start guide that came with is to tangeringsdr.com/magpie, and that doesn't work.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to them about that.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get them to, yeah, we'll have to see which website they actually point to. So I think they should point to the Hamsci website for this.
Yeah, no, it's pointing to the Tangering SDR website.
All right. Yeah, well, I'll talk to them about that.
Oh, also the other concern I had on this is they're calling it the Magpie. That is the name of the Raspberry Pi Association's periodical. Wonder if we should change it to Magnipie, MAGNIPI, or something like that.
Yeah, I thought we should call it the pair because you have the pair of boards, and for a while we've been doing that. So we've got pears, grapes. All right, so we have some branding issues to deal with over there.
That would be all right too, but Magpie is already taken.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'll call it the
The
banana.
other thing everybody should remember too is anytime you're looking for stuff on a website, in the upper right-hand corner is search. Just click on that, type in magnetometer, and you'll find the stuff, so.
Look at that. Gary, are you keeping a list of things to talk about on the Monday night telecons too?
Not so much, but I could start.
Okay. Yeah. And if I ever start overloading you with stuff, let me know. So like, because I could probably just be like, oh, keep doing it. Like, I don't want to do that. So at some point, tell me when we need to kind of cut the scope here of what your job is.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't attend that meeting now because that conflicts with when I'm teaching this extra class.
But we could talk about the Magpie branding issue and the issues with it, pointing to the Tangerine website. I think the proper solution is probably going to be with the quick start guide. It's probably, we probably have to have links to both the Hamsci website and Tangerine SDR, because I think that's only fair to both organizations. But, in terms of where the actual, maybe we do only have one quick start guide. We'll have a discussion about that on Monday night. Anyway, I have to go because Veronica's here for her meeting. But as long as I'm showing the screen, I do want to show yesterday we had a poster session here at the University of Scranton. And it was, very similar. In the same space, we had the Hamsci workshop. They call it the Celebration of Student Scholars. And so they have a poster session, and they have people not just from, believe it or not, did you know that there's other types of research besides ham radio research? We learned that yesterday.
No, say it isn't so.
So posters, and there's like humanities posters, and so yeah, there's all these other research areas. It's really fascinating. They were all
Total sacrilege.
Celebration of Student Scholars. But I saw in the middle here is the president of the University of Scranton, Father Marina, and then over here is the Jesuit Superior, Father Tim Duffy. And I saw both of them there. I said, "Oh, it's nice to see you. Would you like to go hear the research that one of my students is doing?" And they said, "Absolutely." So I brought them over to Veronica's poster, and so Veronica gave them a whole description of what she's doing.
Yeah, they've got that glazed look in their eye.
And well, we had them. There she is, giving the talk. Of maybe that's a better facial expression there. They all look nicely engaged. So what's going on? They look quite fascinated. I think Father Marina, he actually has some sort of a background in physics. He was the associate dean of the College of Science and Math at Montclair State back before I went to undergrad at Montclair State. And so he was actually Dr. West's associate dean for a while, which is kind of neat. And then and so he has his PhD in like higher education. And then Father Duffy is actually a medical doctor and a biologist. So he's another like PhD, MD type of person. So David would probably enjoy talking with him. And he also does music stuff. So I feel like they'd have good conversations. Anyway, I am happy to report to you that I like the student we got over here too. Yeah, so we might have to crop that image. But I'm also happy to say that Veronica has done a really nice job with these plots. You can't really see them here, but she's been working on calculating the spectrograms of the traveling ionospheric disturbance spectrum measured by the grapes. And she's able to average it over long periods of time. And she's able to, show the difference between what's happening in summer, spring, winter, and fall for these different things. So she's doing, working on this climatology, and the plots are starting to come out very nicely now. So we're going to keep working with her on that now. And then she'll be doing her PhD at Virginia Tech in the SuperDarn lab. And she'll be starting this coming fall. So I'm hoping that she'll be able to continue some of this work in conjunction with the super darn data as well. I think there's a good path forward there. So it'll be very interesting.
Cool.
So, right, Veronica?
Yes.
Yeah. So, all right. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll see everyone at the 4 o'clock telecon.
Okay, thank you.
73
you.
all.
7-3.
73.
7-3.